the discipleship process was almost just to say, here's our life, here's our ministry. You have full access from, borrowing my sleds when it's snowing to here's how I parent, here's what we're having for dinner, come over, life on life in a very natural friend way, and then progress to here's how I pastor. You don't have to do it exactly like this, but here are some, core principles of how I structure my life. Kind of just building a roadmap of here's where we're getting on the ramp together, and here's where we're hopefully gonna send you off, and these are the things we think you'll need in your toolbox. Our goal was always to not just care about church planning when we were doing it, but to care about church planning for the rest of our lives. When our church was about 3 and 4 years old, we started having conversations about seriously, planting our first church and looking at bringing in a resident. And I had known Joel for a couple of years. I think he was the kind of person that I thought, whether he knows it or sees it, if he ever feels that calling, I was pretty confident he could lead a church and build something significant.
God clearly called us to start a new church. And at that point, we didn't really know where or how or with who. So I just start calling different people that I know that have planted churches or organizations that were doing it. And the more I found out about church planting, the more I wanted to do it with Mark. We planted our church. And I found out how easy it is to just think about yourself, how easy it is to slip into just doing your thing. And not everybody's doing it because it's hard work.
Healthy, mature things multiply. So as we got healthy and mature, you planted, and then as you were self-supporting, the clock was running. It was kind of like this should happen again.
Trey and I spoke a few times on the phone. We were in a place where we were financially kind of getting ready to be able to plant a church. We probably could tag team another plant.
It's about feeling like where God has you is what he's like wired you, made you for, and reaching those people. We didn't even know where we were going to live in Columbus. We just knew this was what we wanted to be a part of. The people, the DNA, the finances prove that you care.
Am I discipling them or are they discipling me? Yes. I would follow these guys. I do follow these guys. They speak into my life.
I think I've learned a lot from each of them in a lot of unique ways. The fact that you're just accessible is like a huge thing.
We could be a year or two out from even all three of us simultaneously planting 3 different churches.
The whole environment that's created in church planting is raising up people. We've seen our own personal discipleship in this, but then also we get to share and teach the same thing that we're experiencing.
It's really even more than a church planting story, a discipleship story where it's been Mark's character as a leader and his DNA as a leader that's been passed down to me and then passed on to Trey.
You get to raise up new leaders, but also one of the hardest things is you get to raise up new leaders. What happens oftentimes when you're in that season is you just like care more about where you're going to go than the actual people a part of the process, and you kind of treat them as fuel, trying to move the ship in such a speed without actually processing like the health of people and the values that we were preaching that then we were not actually leading in. Part of this group of discipleship, being able to go back and get refinement from people that can be your mirror.
When we started our church, I felt like Sunday mornings was going to be the main way that I was going to try to disciple people. Maybe the ministry that we're going to do with Life on Life disciples in our church is actually going to be as important, maybe more important than some of the Sunday morning stuff. So I started a discipleship group like 7 or 8 years ago. What I have found at times when we don't have any structure is we all talk about the fruit in our life. So the good fruit or the rotten fruit. And the richest time of growth for all of the discipleship times have been when there's been a little bit more structure that has guided us not to talk about all the fruit in our lives, but the roots of our lives and where we are with the Lord. And then the fruit kind of takes care of itself.
Process whether you're anxious about discipling because it's a lack of information or a lack of abiding. Do I feel like I'm not smart enough or know enough or have read enough books? Or is my relationship with Jesus actually really just not great? The key is like discipling anybody is helping them see you're abiding so they might abide in Jesus. And I think information's great, but it can oftentimes be an idol. The abiding piece that comes through life on life, through seeing people and how they interact in life, I would just say press into those things more because those, I think, prove more to people.
It's very rare that I'm like, man, I patterned my life after this thing Jesus did, and boy, do I regret that. You know, it doesn't mean that I do it perfect, but it has fruit that other things don't, and it's worth the investment.